Hey everyone, it's Jason, and welcome to Unmatched Marvel. This is Brains and Bronze. We're getting Spider-Man, She-Hulk, and Doctor Strange. Nice fun expansion. Some of the big name characters, Spider-Man, of course, being the big one there. All got very different gameplay, obviously. Spider-Man should probably be moving around. She-Hulk's going to have a lot of heavy strength, but she does have some interesting mechanics as well. And Doctor Strange is going to have lots of hard to pronounce cards. Plus, as Wong is a sidekick, so that's always fun there. So let's go ahead and just hop right into this. If you're not familiar with what the Unmatched game is, just a quick thing for it is typically a one-on-one combat between two characters. And they have lots of other ones that aren't just Marvel. They have other IPs, as well as fantasy stuff. So you have Robin Hood, Bigfoot, Medusa, kind of there's so many other ones. King Arthur. Plus you have some IP stuff like we also have Jurassic Park, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Witcher just came out as well. You can mix and match any of these characters to have them fight in a duel. You can also play multiplayer if you like 2 versus 2. There are rules for that as well. Obviously this means you can't play 2 versus 2 because you only get 3 characters. But still. Very cool. And you can just play the Marvel ones against each other if that's all you want to do. Alright, so then we have our board. So let's look at our board first. We're going to start with the Sanctum Sanctorum, which is actually the only one we have. It's double-sided. So these are really fun when they started doing some of these like this. So we have with just clear rings on there, so if you want a little bit more of the board, you can see stuff a little bit nicer. Or you can flip it to the other side, which gives you more clear direction on where you can and can't move. So any of the areas of the same color are these same areas. So we have like the white, blue up here in the top corner. It's all very connected. We have the middle here in the yellow, which connects to the blue very well. Kind of connects out to everything else. You go up the stairs here to the purple, which connects barely together, but there's only one way in from this side. Then we connect down to this little tiny hallway, which just is kind of by itself. Then we have the corner here. It's again kind of by itself, a little bit areas that come out. Now notice there's a brown over here as well for this. And we have this big red carpeted area over here. Kind of matches the blue. And then the little green in the center. So it's kind of like the green and brown sort of opposites. But yeah, so nothing like terribly tricky. No like spots I think you get into that you can't get out of very quickly. A lot to be able to move around in open space in this one. Then we also have the spots on here for a couple of different icons for your steaming or versatile eye tokens, which we'll look at a little bit later. I don't know if there's any like little hidden Easter eggs in the board. They usually don't put too much in there. Yeah. So we kind of flip it to the other side. We have the same thing, just again without the big circles on there, the big colored parts on there. So if you want a little bit more to see the board, probably I don't want to say necessarily for or not for veteran players, which some people might like the aesthetic of not having the big colors all over the board, but it plays the exact same way. Everything's laid out the same. Very, very cool. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into our characters. We are going to start with She-Hulk. So She-Hulk plays a little interesting role in this game because they're actually looking at the fact that they're playing on the fact that she is a lawyer as well. So not just the fact that she's a big bruiser of a She-Hulk, but she's also the lawyer. So here's her manager, Jennifer Walters. Definitely very imposing. And they have her with, having a big giant pillar. But we're going to get a lot of lawyer references in here, which is interesting. They didn't do that with Daredevil, even though he's more famously probably known as a lawyer. But I also don't think they want just a big beefy Hulk characters. They're usually supposed to be characters in this game that have some sort of strategy, maneuverability or mental games or something, and not just, we have the Hulk running around punching the first thing he sees and that's all he does. Although that might be an interesting character for the game. So you do have her health dial. Quadrodomania Justica Sequetar. I don't know exactly what that means. Yeah, we have her health dial here. Backside, just a little green one. She has her starting card. She's a melee attacker, of course. So it's 20 health, which is pretty hefty. Special ability says just throw something. She has a movement of 2. At the start of your turn, you may discard a card to deal damage equal to its boost value to a fighter in your zone. So she can, get some extra damage by just discarding cards. Green Gorgeous Gamma Powered Bombshell. You know what? I know that's what you're thinking. Alright, so let's take a look at our cards. So, on the bottom of every card, of course, it'll tell you how many copies there are. There are 3 copies of this. This is a defense card. She-Hulk says Lady Justice. During combat, discard your top card of your opponent's deck. Increase the value of the card by twice that card's boost value. So it starts at 0, but depending on what your opponent has, this could be either very small or very big. Of that boost value. I think most boost values are 1 or 2. And there are some 3s, so occasionally. So it's probably, generally, most of the time, going to be a 2 defense. Could be a 4 defense, fairly often. And then very rarely, it'll probably be a 6 or higher. There might be some characters that have 4 boosts. You might get up to an 8, but I'm not going to say how often that'll be. Interesting, let's discard the top of your opponent's deck. Not your deck, so you can't even, stack your deck that way. We have 2 copies of Defense. The Defense Rests. After combat, draw cards equal to the combat damage you took. Nice, so you take some extra hits. You can go ahead and get it. I think that's going to be kind of her thing. She has, she does have a lot of health, but she's going to just be able to, absorb the damage. She's kind of like, I don't care if you hit me. I have health. I can absorb it, and then she can do stuff like this to, use that to, I can go ahead and attack you back. We have a versatile card here. So it's a cease and desist. We have 3 copies of it. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. During combat, if you are attacking, the value of this card is 4 instead. So yeah, not much defense, but if you're going on the offensive, it becomes a 4. That's pretty cool. 3 copies of Legalese. After combat, if you won the combat, your opponent chooses whether you both draw a card or both discard a card. If you lost the combat, you make the choice instead. Oh, that's kind of neat. So depending on what happens, your opponent gets an option. Otherwise, you can decide. It might be more beneficial to discard cards sometimes, or it might be beneficial to, draw a card. Just kind of depends on where you're sitting at. Very interesting. 3 copies of Nerve Cluster Strike. Immediately, if She-Hulk is adjacent to the opposing fighter may not leave their space this turn. That is a good card. You just smack them right away, and now they can't use before combat ability to dodge back somewhere. You hit them in a nerve and slow them down. Alright, then we have 2 attack cards. We have the Savage She-Hulk. During combat, you may spend an additional action to make this card's value 9 instead. Oh. Dang, doing 9 damage. That's pretty crazy. Spend an action for it, but hey, if you're right there, that's definitely worth it. 3 copies of Green Energy. After combat, if you won the combat, deal 1 damage to each fighter adjacent to She-Hulk. That's neat too. Kind of like a little energy explosion out when you win. Imagine you did that 9 and then you did that as well. Plus, every enemy, you could take out some of their little minions if they have any. 3 copies of Sensational. After combat, if you won this combat, you may choose a card from your discard pile and shuffle it into your deck. Very, very helpful. We have 2 copies of Omega Level Threat, which does 5 damage. After combat, if you dealt 2 or more combat damage, your opponent discards 2 cards at random. We have 2 copies of Double Jeopardy. Draw 2 cards and recover 2 health for scheming. 2 copies of Jennifer Walters Esquire. Place She-Hulk in a starting space, draw 1 card, gain 1 action. That's not even bad. Getting to move back to the starting spot can help you just navigate around the board, either using it as an escape technique or using it to get close to somebody else. And then her last 2 cards are Leap Toward. Move She-Hulk up to 4 spaces. She may move through opposing fighters. Then, if she's adjacent to opposing fighter, she gains 1 action. Cool. So those last 2 are really helpful for her getting to move around. Otherwise, she doesn't generally have a lot of movement. But the thing is, if she's next to you, she's going to hurt you. Definitely a very interesting character. And like I said, I don't look at these ahead of time, so I'm going through this the same as you guys watching this. So it's kind of like me being like, "Ooh, yeah, that's actually really neat." As I said, yeah, just having a straight up beefcake of a Hulk would be maybe a little bit too much. Like they're like they have to if they hit you, do something. You have to find some way of negating it. Like they have to almost draw another card to decide if they're too rage filled to hit you or not, or something like that. But I think this is a very interesting way to do it. Like she has some decent cards where she can get rid of stuff. Spend extra cards or extra actions to do more damage. So it's like, yes, she can hit you for a bigger thing or guarantee a hit every turn if she's next to you, but it costs her stuff to do it. So that way she has less options to do. But she can also just take some hits as well, so she doesn't probably have to run away as much. Very cool. Alright, up next we have Doctor Strange and Wong. So Doctor Strange is going to get his Eye of Agamotto dial. And we get a little tiny one for Wong. Just want to know, is this... Yeah, it's kind of... Usually the sidekicks are smaller, but it's also interesting to note that his is smaller than... The She-Hulk's is bigger. Like, even Spider-Man's is the same size, but She-Hulk gets an extra big one because it has to have more health. Very cool. Here's our Doctor Strange miniature. Sitting on a cloud of smoke or astral stuff, casting his spells. This definitely looks like I would see if they said, "Oh, I'm playing D&D miniature back in the 80s, maybe even early 90s," and they would have made a little metal miniature, pewter miniature. That's what you would have expected. And there's Wong, his double-sided token. Alright, what does Doctor Strange bring to the table? We have Doctor Strange being a ranged character with 14 health. Wong is also ranged, who has 6 health. So it gives you a total of 20. So, same amount overall as She-Hulk. Dark Pact. After each combat, if Doctor Strange played a card, you may deal 1 damage to him. If you do, put that card in the bottom of your deck and draw a card. It's a very interesting idea, so he can take damage to basically put cards back in his deck so he can find them quicker and then draw a card. When you start getting towards the end of your deck, you might potentially even get 1 chance where you might get hit, put a card in your deck. It might have been the last card of your deck, you gotta draw it right away. Very interesting. So we have 2 copies of Cloak of Levitation. During combat, if Doctor Strange is adjacent to the opposing fighter, ignore the value of your opponent's cards. Interesting. So if they get next to him, he can kind of be like, I don't care what you have to say. 2 copies of Feint. This is a card that a lot of characters in this set have. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. And now you're going to notice that some of these say Doctor Strange on them. So only a Doctor Strange miniature can use them when you're casting them. Feint can be used by him or Wong. So if it says any, that means Wong can also use these cards. Then we have 3 cards that are specifically only Wong can use. Steadfast Disciple. After combat, if Wong is adjacent to the opposing fighter, deal 1 damage to the opposing fighter and draw a card. Again, kind of refresh your hand, just very helpful. 3 copies of Master of Kamar Taja. During combat, if Doctor Strange and Wong are adjacent, this card's value is 4 instead. So, very interesting to have these guys hang out next to each other, doing ranged abilities, but if they can get next to the opponents, they can like do extra damage. They can weaken them, so like they're not even vulnerable necessarily if they get in close range. We have 4 copies. Not often we get 4 copies of the Bolts of Balthark. During combat, you may blind boost this card. After combat, if you won the combat, gain 1 action. So Blind Boost is an extra ability that he has. I want to say, Doctor Strange item, Blind Boost. When effect tell you to Blind Boost, reveal the top card of your deck, add its boost value, then discard it. A Blind Boost does not count as drawing a card for other effects, such as taking damage. When you're exhausted, if your draw pile is empty, Blind Boost is treated as 0. So what this does is it lets him sacrifice cards from his deck to boost up his ability, and anyone can use this. And it's kind of neat because it's he can take damage to like recycle cards, but he can also just discard cards. So he can spend his life and his deck as resources. Very interesting idea. He's got 3 copies of the 7 Sons of Cinnabis. The value of this card is above 7. Ignore its value. During combat, you may blind boost this card up to 2 times. So a little risk reward there. It starts off as 3, but if you blind boost it too much, it gets too high and basically he can't control it and you lose all the abilities of it. So yeah, interesting. So you get a 3 and a 1 and then you're done. So if you get a 3, stay at 6. But if you get a 2, you can still get another 3. Or you could get a 1 and then hope for a 3. Again, I don't think there's very rarely any cards. There's no cards in his deck that have more than a boost of 4. The only one that has 3 is that last one, that Bolts card. Well, there's one other one. So, interesting. We have 3 copies of the Mist of Mundapore. Immediately discard your opponent's card. They reveal cards from their deck until they reveal an attack or a versatile card they can play. They play the card and randomly put the rest of the revealed cards at the bottom of their deck. Ooh, that's interesting. Like, just messing up their entire... That could be good or a bad thing, because you can end up drawing some, like, really powerful card. But if you're kind of paying attention to what's in their deck, you might be like, oh, their powerful cards are gone. So you might get lucky. 3 copies of the Rings of Ragador. After combat, if you won the combat, your fighter and each friendly fighter adjacent to them recover health equal to the damage dealt. So yeah, having him and Wong hang out next to each other, you can do some good recovery there. 3 copies of the Wings of Watum. After combat, your opponent places Doctor Strange in a starting space. Place the opposing fighter in another starting space. All players shuffle their deck. It kind of like resets the battlefield. Very interesting. But it's neat that your opponent gets to pick where you go, and then you get to pick where they go. Very cool. 2 copies of the Eye of Agamotto. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 5 cards, and gain an action. And then his last 2 cards are, no, really, I'm a doctor. Reveal a card from your hand, put it in the top of your deck. Doctor Strange or a friendly fighter adjacent to him recovers health equal to that card's boost value. Nice. So there's some good recovery cards. A lot of that blind boosting, sacrifice your cards, but then he has a decent number of ways to like reshuffle his deck quickly, or he can use his other his Dark Pact ability to put cards he really needs back into his deck. So it's like, hey, I can blind boost this, blind boost that, got rid of that. Now I play this card. I really need another attack card next turn, or I need that healing card next turn. You can go ahead and sacrifice some health to get some of that back. So very, very interesting strategy. Imagine him like fighting off against She-Hulk there, where he's going to be throwing attacks at a range. She's going to be trying to run up and punch him. Gets close, he can do some stuff to either reset everybody or do some extra damage with Wong. They can double team him or her or whoever. Very interesting. Alright, then finally we have Spider-Man. Good old Peter Parker Spider-Man. Which I am glad they did Peter Parker and not Miles. Nothing against Miles. I just feel like if you're doing a Marvel game, stick with Peter Parker first. Do Miles as a second character. One thing I kind of didn't like about the dice throwing game. But they put him in there first. There's a really interesting Spider-Man. We don't often see that big giant web. Very interesting. It's supposed to be like him. I'm guessing it's probably supposed to be him like flying through the air. Not really sure. Very different pose for him. But what does Spider-Man do for us? I'm going to guess he's going to have a lot of movement and some spidey-sense. So he has 15. So he has a little less health than Doctor Strange. Less health overall. But he has movement of 3, so he can get around the board quicker. Spider-sense. When an opponent attacks Spider-Man, before you play a defense card, they must tell you the printed value of their card. So he always knows what he's fighting against. So that's actually a pretty interesting strategy. He doesn't have anything that actively does other stuff, but always knowing what you're going against is how many cards you have to play to stop it. It's easy to laugh at the basic danger when you don't take anything too seriously. And he's a melee character. So, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Recover 3 health. Play Spider-Man in any space in his zone. So yeah, heal and then dodge away. We have 2 copies of that. We have 3 copies of previously, up at the top up there, counterattack. After combat, if the value of your opponent's card is 4 or higher, deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. Nice. So basically, if they beat you, you get to counterattack them for an additional 2 damage. If it's not, then you get to block it. Not bad. 2 copies of Disarming Shock. After combat, draw a number of cards equal to the combat damage dealt to the opposing fighter. 3 copies of Momentous Shift, a very common card we've seen. During combat, if Spider-Man started his turn in a different space, the value of this card is 5 instead. So if you move first, you get to do some extra damage. Again, just one of the things which a neat combat trick or ability is it rewards you for, instead of attacking twice, for getting a move and attack. 3 copies of Web Shooters. During combat, Spider-Man cannot take more than 2 combat damage of this combat. It's not a high defense, but you can definitely block some stuff. 2 copies of Right in the Face. Immediately, your opponent can't draw cards this turn. The 4 defense or 4 attack, not bad at all. I think Spider-Man is a little bit more versatile than some of the other characters. 2 copies of Snark. After combat, Spider-Man has adjacent to the opposing fighter, draw a card. 3 copies of Spider-sense Tingling. After combat, if the value of your opponent's card is 4 or higher, draw 2 cards. 3 copies of Swinging Kick, which does 6 damage. Dang. After combat, move the opposing fighter a number of spaces up to the amount of combat damage dealt. That's actually not bad. Like, he wants to be close, but it might not hurt to make them back off of it. And potentially up to 6 spaces. 3 copies of Thwip. After combat, if you won the combat, place Spider-Man any space in his zone. Getting some more movement around. And this could be helpful, too, if you're fighting a character that has either a sidekick or minions, because you defeat one of them and then move closer to the other opponent, or dodge away from them. Then we have 2 copies of Wall Crawler. After combat, place Spider-Man in any space in his zone. And finally, 2 copies of With Great Power. All Spider-Man's attacks this card are +1 value. Draw 1 card, gain 1 action. So he has a 1 healing ability at the beginning. Otherwise, he has a lot of stuff that's just versatile. Like, right, he's can attack or defense. Maybe it's not very high, but he even has stuff where if he loses combat, he still gains a bonus from it. Plus the fact is he always knows what his opponent's going to attack him with. He has a better idea of what card he needs to play against it to stop it. So yeah, he's going to be very, very interesting. He's going to kind of get in close, punch around. Then he has his movement cards. They're going to move him all. If you played Marvel Rivals, you can just imagine this is Spider-Man in that game, where he's going to run in, hit you with a couple attacks, and then bounce back out, so you have to, chase him down, where he can maybe refill his hand, re-strategize, and then fly back in with his extra movement. It's a very, very interesting character. So cool. Alright, so then the last thing we have to look at are our battle items. So we get these battlefield items, which go on them little spaces on the board, which give you extra bonuses. So the combat items will give you a plus value to either attack or defense when you spend them per what they are. So Black Law's Dictionary and the battle axe here. So we can flip these over and it says exactly what they are. Black Law Dictionary gets you a +1. And the Axe of Angernus. Then the other one we have for that is this dagger. Stuff you find in the Sanctum. The Dragon Fang gets you a +2. Then we have some steaming stuff. So steams can be used immediately to do some extra effects. So we have the Daily Bugle. And this is the Brazier of Balmgloth. So the Daily Bugle says draw 3 cards. Put a card from your hand at the bottom of your deck. So yeah, it's not bad getting some extra stuff. And then the Brazier of Balmgloth. Put a steam from your deck as a free action. That's not bad either. Then the last one is we have this ring. It says Astral Ring, move up to each fighter 1 space. So very cool. And then if you have more of the Marvel sets, and there's possibly other sets that might include these in the future, you can mix and match all the different combat items up. So if you want to have more things, but then just add some extra flair to the game. So everyone has their own deck, but they can have extra things they wouldn't normally be able to do, like moving characters around or playing free cards. So very, very cool what we have there. Alright, that is what we have for Brains and Brawn or Marvel Unmatched. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check out the other Unmatched sets. Most of them so far I have are Marvel, but I want the Ninja Turtles one is coming out soon, so we'll get that one in there. As well as there's the cooperative Tales School Maze. So check out that if you want to see what a cooperative mode, which we can always take the Marvel characters in there to have them fight monsters as well. Alright, see you guys later. Bye.